If you're a complete beginner to Frosthaven Digital, this is a good starting guide for you. I'm going to walk you through the original Training Grounds game in this early access release and also show you how the core mechanics and the UI works. By the end of this, you should have a much better idea of whether this is a good game for you. So if you've never played the game, if you're thinking about it, this is going to be good for you. If you've purchased the game and you're sitting there really confused, I'm also going to help you with that as well. There is a beautiful game sitting under here, but you're going to need to do a little bit of this, a little bit of thinking, and once you do, it's a really fun game. If you need something a bit more advanced, I'm going to continue with this into the first main level, but we need to start to learn to walk before we can run. So when you come into the game here, we've got the campaign, multiplayer extras, and all this stuff. You want to be clicking on campaign and then go to new. So once you do this, you'll get access to the tutorial. Now you could just sit here and go through the tutorial yourself, but there are some gaps, and I will point out down the bottom left hand side at the time of making this video, this is early access, so I would expect this tutorial will improve over time, but we can still learn the basics from here, and the game does a reasonable job at that. It's just I had some questions as I was going through that, so I'm going to fill in those gaps as we go. So select the training grounds and go to continue if you own the game. If not, just sit back and I will also explain how this game works. Now, compared to the board game of Frosthaven, what you've got is a lot of common things here. You've got faithful graphics that have come over from the designs of the board game, also the game cards, the classes, all those sort of rules. But the advantage of the video game over the board game is going to be things like you're going to get a bit of animation, a bit more story, a bit more lore. You also don't have to sit there and go like this and figure out what all the scores are. So you can play the game a lot quicker in the video game as opposed to the board game. Right, so we've started out here. And you can see we get a little introduction. I welcome you, guildmate. Before setting off, let's make sure we go over the basics. After all, the guild needs to be confident you'll survive in the coming trip. And this works really well. So we do this. We've got use WASD key, keyboard keys. So that moves us around. So I'm on the PC here. Rotate Q and E. And then zoom in, zoom out you can do with the middle wheel. Now, this being adapted from a card game, this is something that's quite different to games like XCOM, which were basically the CEO of the games company. That's their experience. So we have this card-based initiative here, which gets quite confusing to begin with. So you need to pay attention here. So it says ability cards represent the actions heroes can perform during the course of the game. This includes movement on the field. So far, so good. So we click. Heroes can use 2 ability cards per turn. And you can see here we've only got 2 cards anyway. You can view an ability card in detail by inspecting it. So if we hover over it here, you can see we've got this here. Or we can hit the middle mouse button to see a bit more about it like we've got here. Or we can hit T. So you can see this tells us a bit of stuff. And one of the things that I really struggled with is I'm like, what are all these little things here? And you need to take your time looking at this. So this is basically saying the melee attack, or melee attack, is a single attack performed against one target. An attack ability is an ability that consists of one or more separate attacks, and an attack action is any action that contains at least one attack ability. And you're like, what? And then you've got this thing here, so it says an ability accompanied by a range X means the target must be within X hexes. Any ability with a specified range can be performed on a character, blah, blah, blah. So this is also quite hard to read here once you've got this little help system here. So it's just saying, look, there's more info here. Don't worry about it too much yet. So you're going to need to learn what all these things are, but not quite yet. And this is part of the problem because you're kind of overloaded with information when you start Frosthaven Digital. So it says select both ability cards. So we need to select these. And it says press end selection button. You're like, huh? All right, we're going to do that. It will become a bit clearer in a minute. So each ability card is divided into 2 parts. So you've got top and bottom. So you can see that here. And each part represents an action. Stick with me. This will make sense in a minute. A hero must perform at least 1 top and 1 bottom action during their turn. So you use both cards in each turn, but you pick the top or the bottom of one card and then the opposite of the other one. So if I pick the top here, I have to pick the bottom here. If I pick the bottom here, I have to pick the top here. I can pick this card before this card if I wish. Okay, so it says activate 1/2 of either card. So I'll select this one here, and you can see then it says this one here. Now this is not very useful because it's not really explaining how these work. So I found this a bit confusing. It said you selected the movement as the main action in the tip of the spear ability card, and you can move up to 4 hexes on the grid. And you're like, oh. So what this is saying is this here means I can move at 4, and that means these are the hexes here, so I can do this here. So I'll select there, and you can see I can move my character. What I find weird about the tutorial is it's like wouldn't be quite how it works in the game, because these go in order basically, and we need an enemy as well. So you sort of see a little bit about it. So we move here, and then it says you only move 3 hexes. It says you can move 1 more hex. Let's take this final step now. So we move here, and we're moving through this little area. So you can see we made it through, and you're like, okay. And we've got 1 action left, and as we use the bottom action, we now use the top action, but we're on a ranged attack here, so we need to be at least 1 step away here. So I know it's a ranged attack because it's got this little arrow thing here, and if I could middle click, but it's forcing me to do it, I've just got to click here, and it says select the top action, select my dude here, so we'll do this, select them here, confirm the target. And what it's saying is I could do an attack of 3 here, but because this dude has a shield on him, it's not going to attack him that viciously. And again, this is the problem with what's going on here with the tutorial. It's confusing because it's not telling you how everything works, but we need to start somewhere. So you can see we've done a little bit of stuff there. We moved, we attacked, and we're sort of a bit, I don't really know. So since that covers the basics, let's move to more advanced topics. So we'll go here. So you can see now we've got lots of cards, and it says during combat, participants take turns based on initiative. The card with the lowest initiative value is played first. Stuck behind my head there, I couldn't read it. So if we have a little look, it says the turn order is displayed in the initiative track located at the top of the screen. So these are our characters in this case here. Okay, and initiative is important, and it's easy to sort of miss this, so I want to talk about it a little bit. So it says for each hero, select 2 ability cards or choose to rest. Okay, so we're going to do that. Unlike before, you now have a total of 10 ability cards which form your hero's hand. To begin, select the javelin and tip of the spear for the cards for this round. Now, what it's saying is pay attention to the initiative value. So here 21 and 67. Basically, the lower that number, the more likely you are to go first in the round. Now, where this gets complicated, and I'm going to show this in the second video, is when you have multiple characters and multiple enemies. So you'll always be able to figure out what your team's initiatives are. So if I pick 21 and 67 on here for this character, and then I had another character where I pick, say, 6 and 32, the character where I picked 6 first would go first in my character sequences. But if any enemies rolled something that was, or picked a card that was less than that, less than 6, they would go first. So it's an important thing to do. So if I pick a javelin first, this is the one that is going to lead. But if I was interested in not going first, I might pick tip of the spear first and javelin second. And that would mean we would have 67 as the run here. So in this case, that would be back to front, but sometimes you want to do that, and I want to point that out. You don't always want to go first in your order of characters. The reason why you may not want to do that is maybe you want to move another character into position to help with your attack. So for example, with tip of the spear, you need somebody behind you to back up your attack. So that little blue thing you see is a character that would be behind you on a hex, and then you in front, and that means you can hit 2 enemies directly in front if we had that. So a character moved here would make sense, and if there were 2 characters here, 2 enemies, we could hit both, or just one if there's only one in there. I know this is a lot to learn, stick with it. So we'll end the selection. And you can see that my initiative was based on that first card, 67, whereas the Guild Mentor is at 99 because it's just left that anything would put me in front of them in this case. That's not normal. Okay, that was pretty rare. So we've got that. We continue. And it says during the hero's turn, you'll still be able to play the selected ability cards in any order, but their initiative won't change. So what that's saying is now we've got to this point, I can use my cards in any order. I don't have to go with the one that I selected as the first card. That's important as well. So you're going to want to be balancing those around. There are 2 types of attacks: melee attack only adjacent hexes, and ranged attack adjacent or distance ones. So you can see in this case the javelin would be a distance attack, a ranged attack. But the tip of the spear would be a melee attack. So this one is saying I need to be right next to them. So I would be the grey one, or rather my banner spear would. And behind here, I'd need another ally to help with that one, which I can't do in this case because there's only me on the terrain. So we need to do, just see what it says. So it's saying to select the top main action of the javelin card. And you see it says it's a ranged attack, and you can see how far we can go. But what it's saying is if you use a ranged attack option, if you're hitting someone directly next to you, you'll be at a disadvantage. So you'll get a weaker result here. So if we do that here, to avoid attacking under a disadvantage, we need to get some distance. Makes sense. Okay, so what we're going to do is undo that when it tells me. So this is the undo bar, and I'm going to move. So we'll select this move command here, and it's suggesting it wants me to go to this green one here. I'm rotating around by holding the middle mouse button here. So we're going to go here, confirm the movement, and what we've got now is a distance between the enemy and ourselves, which is exactly what we want for the ranged attack. So it says tip of the spear move, select the move point thing. So we've done that. So that means I can't use the top part tip of the spear because I used the bottom. And then we'll click this button here to end. And it says I've got one movement left because I could move up to 4. I only moved 3, and I don't have to use that. I can just say that's enough. So we skip the rest of the movement. Then I've got my second card to play. So I'm going to use this top part of the card here, the ranged attack. So it says if the hero runs out of cards before the main quest objectives are completed, the quest is over. All right, so that's a deeper subject. We're going to talk about that later. Don't worry about it too much in this first one. We'll get into that with the second video. So this is a good spot to perform a ranged attack. Select the top main action of the javelin cards. So we'll select it here. And you can see it rotates around so we can see who we can attack. And I could attack anyone in these orange segments if there were any other enemies. But in this case, there is only the guild mentor. So we're going to select the guild mentor, confirm the targets, and check it out. This is what happens. Bosh. So we did the attack, 4 damage to the guild mentor, and it says damage dealt by the attacker is based on the damage value of the action plus a randomly drawn attack modifier. So each enemy has a bunch of attack modifiers, and you may get a better or worse result depending on what is rolled. Again, a deeper subject, so don't worry about it too much at the minute. You just want to learn the basics here. So those are the attack modifiers. So each character and enemy has these, and you can see they range. So some of them can be drawn multiple times in a quest. So you can see some with 1 bar means I could only get hit with a -2 penalty once. But my zeros, for example, there's loads of those in there, so I could hit the zeros many times. So, it's a complicated subject. Don't worry about it too much at the minute. You can also customize those, which I'll go through in a further video, probably video 3, where I'll show you how you can adjust things when we're at the outpost. Okay, so we'll close that window. And you can see all actions performed throughout the round are listed in the battle log. That's below me here. And it's a handy tool to keep seeing what's going on, so you can see what's going on here. It doesn't really matter. So we'll end our turn. Now you've performed your actions, you can end your turn. Unlike heroes, most enemies can perform only 1 action in their turn. So let's have a little look. It's the guild mentor's turn. Great tactical thinking. Get ready for my next move. So the guild mentor moved and attacked, and you can see we're taking 8 damage, which is a lot of damage. Check it out. So here. So that would normally damage and cause me health points, but there are ways to eliminate and reduce that by making other sacrifices. So we'll click. To avoid receiving the damage from attacks, you can use the following. Use 1 available card or lose 2 discarded cards. Okay, so we'll click. So you can see here we've got this option. If I don't want to get hit by 8 damage, I can sacrifice a card in my deck. So we're going to do that. And it says which one it wants me to lose, but you're free normally to pick whatever one you want. So we'll do that. And then once we've done that, so we select that, we can either choose another card or we can just click that button again. So I'm going to say, yep, that's the one. But of course, this will allow me to see all the cards here, but we're going to say lose it. So this is the thing. Things like that, if your deck falls to nothing, your character will become exhausted. You cannot continue the quest. But if you've got multiple characters, you may still be able to continue. It's complicated, but we'll try and explain it in the second video. So losing ability cards to avoid damage should be used strategically and sparingly, since you no longer can recover them in the current quest. Any lost cards can be used again when you start a new quest or restart the current one. Okay. Despite not taking damage, the attack managed to inflict a status effect on you. The inflicted effect is immobilized, so you can see that little icon there, and that prevents me from moving until it's removed. Status effects are beneficial or penalizing conditions which affect a character until they are removed. So I'm now stuck with this until it disappears, using either some sort of buff, or maybe it's a time-based one and it'll disappear on its own. Okay. So we now got a new round begins. Just this once will remove the immobilized status effect without you having to do a thing. So the game's just helping me. So you just illustrating the point, but we'll see those in the second gameplay thing. At the start of the new round, you can either choose which 2 ability cards to play or to perform a rest. These are 2 types of rest. Short, you must lose 1 discarded ability card at random to recover all other discarded cards. You can then select 2 cards to use for the turn. Or long, you must lose 1 discarded ability card to recover all other discarded cards and heal self for 2 hit points. You can't select any other cards to play for the round. There is no need to perform a rest now, since you still have plenty of cards to use. So that's an important point. And depending on the difficulty you play in the game, you may have to lose a card every time you rest. Or if you play story mode, you get that removed. And as a beginner, I suggest you play story mode to learn the ropes. Select the deflect and maneuver and regroup cards. So we'll do that and we'll end the selection. So that's all good. So skill mentor's turn. There we go. So now, note there are actions in the middle of each ability card. So if you don't like the option you've got on the top or the bottom, you can always perform these standard moves, either in a basic melee attack or move 2. So 2 and 2 here. There are basic actions of the card. Basic attack, you deal 2 base damage, and you can move up to 2 there. So we've got that. The main actions of the card are more powerful than the basic ones. However, some of them lose the card upon usage. Basic actions only discard the ability card to be recovered after resting. So neither of these cards can be lost here by the looks of things, so that's fine, but we could use those instead of these. Some situations are best handled by sticking to the best basic actions. Select the basic attack action in the deflecting maneuver card, so we'll do that here. So this would replace this. I'm using this instead. And we'll attack the guild mentor here, confirm the target, and we'll go Bosh. I've taught you well. I'll go 10 my wounds. Enjoy your spoils. So when defeated, some enemies drop loot, and this is an important point as well. So you can see there's the loot on the floor. In order to pick it up, the hero needs to be on the hex the loot is located before the end of the turn. So we've still got our move command here that we can use. Additionally, some ability cards include actions which also allow for loot collection. So sometimes your card might say, you can send someone else to collect the loot for you, or you collect the loot all in a certain area, so adjacent to your character, for example, but that requires a card to be able to do that. In this case, we can use that basic move, like we had the basic attack, move over to this and select this here, confirm the movement. And what this means is now when we finish this turn, we'll pick up that loot. So we'll skip the movement, press the end banner spear's turn, and we're good. We are good. So that is all good. So we've got victory. Now we've got the final lesson. So hopefully you're understanding a bit of the UI and a bit of the movements. I know there's a lot left to learn. Unfortunately, Frosthaven is a big, complicated game, so I can't teach you everything initially. It's going to take a bit of time, but I'm happy to do that here with this video and a following one and anything else you may know. Like I say, I think it's a great game to be had here, but you need to understand how it all works. It's time to begin with your final test. Let's see how you fare against multiple opponents. I brought my trusty hound with me for this one. Fear not, as you won't be alone in this challenge. Meet your aid for the day, the Inox Drifter. Now, the Drifter is a nice, easy class to use, and this gives you an idea of how the game is going to pan out. You can control up to 4 heroes in your party, and they're a lot of fun because they all do different things. So these two work really well together. So you can see it says your party size can be between 2 and 4 heroes. To switch between the heroes, you can use the party column located on the left side of the screen, which is this. And since you control 2 heroes, you must select ability cards for both of them. And we need 2 per hero. First, let's select the deflecting maneuver and javelin cards for the banner spear. So you can see it's saying, right, we want this one first and this one here. Now, picking them that way round, remember we had that initiative. So the first one is the initiative. So 15 and 21. So 15 was the lowest anybody picks. My banner spear would do the first sort of attack or movement on the screen here. So we'll have a little look there. Now we'll switch to the drifter, and it wants me to pick a violent inheritance and prudent preparation. Now, if I'd picked those the other way round, so this is what I was talking about earlier, it would mean that the drifter would have started first here because the prudent preparation had 14. So if I don't want the drifter to start first, picking them back to front is going to help there. And that might be useful if I want the, banner spear to do something before the drifter's action. So that's important. Think about that way round. Now we end our selection because we've picked our cards. Then the computer will pick the cards for the other 2, our enemies. So we'll end the selection. So you can see they've gone with 98 and 99, which is very unusual. It's just to make sure that we're going first. But normally in a game, you would be going before that. So we'll continue. So, Banner Spear, basic move card of the deflection maneuver. So we're just using this. And the reason why we're using that is you can see that deflecting maneuver has this here, which would just give us shielding from ranged attacks. But I wouldn't be able to move, but we want to move here. So we're going to use this. So you can see now it's saying move to the highlighted hex. So I am free to move anywhere here. If I moved on these, this would activate a trap, which would hurt me. But I'm going to go here, confirm the movement. So we're good. So you can see it's just pay attention to the trap, so otherwise your hero would do that. You've also got things which would include a jump, so there are certain special abilities you have, but we haven't got that in this case. Now we've got the top movement, so we've got the javelin, so we're going to do that. And remember, that's a ranged attack, so we'll grab that. And you can see the Guild Mentor is just in range, but anything outside this area of attack I can't hit. So I can't hit the Hound from here, but I can hit the Guild Mentor. So we'll select the Guild Mentor, confirm the targets, and we'll do a ranged attack. There's that roll that we saw. So there was a 0 roll, which means I got the full 3 hit on it. Now we end the Banner Spear's turn. We've now got the Drifter. And some of the things you can do are defensive, so prudent preparation is one such thing. And what this is saying is you're going to get a shield, so it reduces all incoming attacks by X points of attack. So multiple shield bonuses stack. Shield bonuses only apply to attack abilities and do not stop other forms of damage. So that's one thing you've got. And then we've also got this, which is retaliate, which is quite an interesting thing. So if somebody attacks me, they get damage fired back at them. And again, this can stack. So again, don't worry too much about it, but each card, and this is why the game is interesting, has different effects. And if you want to know more about that, remember you can hit the middle button normally to find out more about this. But we're just going to hit that, confirm it to our Drifter. So we're not doing any attack at all here. We're kind of protecting ourselves from attack. So we'll confirm the target and go, yep. So just confirm. And then you can see that shield and retaliate is on. Now let's continue so we can proceed with attacking. So this one is saying that I could move 4 and then also do a ranged attack. And I've also got this other thing here. So let's see what it says. The violent inheritance, which is cool. And it's suggesting that I move to the highlighted hex. And you can see this loot there that I can pick up. So maybe a character died there just before the scenario started, but we'll move there. And then you say it's a good spot, so we'll skip the rest of the movement, but we'd have movement as well as something else here. So we're going to hit the skip movement. And now it says I can attack. So we're going to select the Hound because that's what one it wants, but I would be free to pick either one. So we'll select that, confirm the target, and we do that ranged attack. So remember, because there's a hex between us, we are able to do the ranged attack. Now we end the Drifter's turn. So we got an item received. That was from the loot. We got a healing potion, which is pretty cool. The Guild Mentor has come forward and attacked the Drifter. So you can see the Drifter can sustain some damage. So we'll receive the damage here. And because we had that retaliate, one goes back at the Drifter. Same thing here. We've got the shield. A bit more of an aggressive attack here by the Hound. So I'll receive the damage. And 1 damage goes back at who attacked me. Now we've got some more interesting things. So this is asking me to look at the pincer movement, and this thing confused the heck out of me, and I'm going to explain this. So these are attacks where you take advantage of other party members, and what this is saying is, if you look on it, the red one needs to be the enemy. The grey one that you see down the bottom left of this card, which I can't float over otherwise it disappears, but bottom left of the red little X that we see is our self, and the blue one would be our ally, so the drifter. So if I could go to this position here, pincer would work. If I went here, it won't work because we're not in a line with the enemy in the middle. So we're going to select that, and also unbreakable wall. And this one's similar. I have to have a ally next to me, and then the 3 enemies in front will all get hit for 3. So let's assume they've got no, buffs or protections or anything like that. So we'll select that as well, and you'll see this in action. So let's switch to the drifter. So we'll select that, and we're going to pick a vile assault and bloodletting, and end the selection. So we can see, there we go. So 98.99, so you know how we're moving forwards. Drifter got hurt. Good time to use the healing potion that we picked up. So we're going to do that. So we can pick this. So any special perks you have can be used here. So we'll do this and confirm the target. There we go. And then we got the bloodletting card at the bottom. So this is going to be one attack, and it's going to apply a negative status effect. So this wound thing here. So we're going to select this and then attack the guild mentor. So we'll hit him. Bosh. So 1 damage, but now he's got this wound, negative status, so they'll suffer 1 damage at the start of each of its turns. A heal ability, if the guild mentor had one, would cure the wound, but if not, they'll keep getting hit for a while. So we've got the alternate one here. We've got the vile assault, so we can use this one. So this is an interesting one. We managed to do an attack here and an attack here, because attack was both in the bottom part, and the top part, which is unusual. You normally have movement in the bottom, but sometimes attack as well. So we'll select this, and it says attack the guild mentor with the first one. So this is going to attack them and poison them, and then the second one is going to attack and wound. So a lot of damage you can do here. So the drifter's pretty cool that they can do 2 attacks with just 1 card, which is pretty cool. So we'll confirm this one. And you can see they rolled a +1 there, so we get extra damage there. And then we've got the hound with the second ability. So this one is going to apply the wound. And you can see that the guild mentor now has a wound and also poison. So that's cool as well. And we'll go for this one. So this should wound the hound. So whack. Big damage there. And now it's ending the drifter's turn. But you can see the drifter did a lot of damage there to our enemy. So they're a great class to have. So we'll end that. And now we've got the banner spear. So we've got a couple of things here. If I move the pincer, like I say, if I moved there, we could attack the guild mentor in the middle. If I moved here, it would attack these 3 hexes here. And so as there's no one here, it would attack these 2. And you're going to see that in a minute. So these are powerful attacks because they hit multiple enemies at once. Well, this one does. This one is a powerful attack that hits 5 damage to the person in the middle by taking advantage of me and an ally. Oh, sorry, my banner spear and an ally. So let's have a little look. Use the bottom basic action of the pincer movement to move to the highlighted hex. So in this case, you can see because we've got this, and I don't want to do this, I don't want to only move 1, I need to move 2. So we're going to hit the move command here. Actually, what I could use is that move one, and if there was any loot, it would pick that up, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go here. Confirm. And then you see, because we went on a trap, we have to receive damage. So we'll do that. I could discard a card if I wanted, but it says receive damage, so we'll do that. Since you're now where you need to be to skip the remaining movement by pressing, you can do that by pressing the skip movement command. So I'm happy where I am. Skip. And now we've got this unbreakable wall. So what this is saying is if I was on the right and the ally was on the left, we would hit these 3 here with this attack command. But I'm on the left and my ally is on the right, so I need to have the grey here, and you can do that. So we'll select this, and like it says, grey hex, so that's the banner spear. The blue hex is the ally, and the red hex would be the enemies, or are the enemies if we use this. Okay, so that makes sense. According to the pattern, you can see that they need to occupy the left, and this is an important thing. So if it's the wrong way round, there is a button you need to press, so you need to pay attention to this. So we'll do this. We'll select the action, and you can see it's not quite the right way round. So it's saying, well, your ally would need to be here because you're on the right, or the, here, we can't quite do it. But if you hit the R command until it matches, so you can see there, it's now saying, right, allies on the right, you're on the left, and we're going to hit these 3 here. Okay, so when we're happy, we lock the position with the left mouse button. What this is now saying is if we go ahead, it's going to hit anyone in these 3 spots. So it's going to hit the guild mentor and the hound, and it would have attacked someone here if we had a 3rd enemy. Here we go. So we end the Banner Spear's turn to end the current round. So we've wiped out all enemies, we've got the loot there, and we have a victory. That's it. You've gone through the tutorial. Now, there's a lot of gaps that we've got since the tutorial, but obviously this has taken a long time to cover this in detail. So I will put this up, and I will also follow up with another tutorial where we go through the first level and build upon what you've learned here. So I know it's a lot of information for you to understand, but you can see we've done that, and then we can go into the campaign, and that's exactly what I'll do next. I'll show you how to set up a party and how to go through the first level and understand the basics of the outpost. If this was useful to you, please give me a thumbs up, give me some feedback, let me know if you're playing Frosthaven or not, and what you think of this, and did this help you out, and what gaps do we need to cover. But do have a little look at that other video that I'll also post. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please subscribe. Cheers.